Well, hello, my name's Louise Savage. Welcome to my channel if you're joining for the first time. Very warm welcome back if you've listened to my musings before. So it's February and I have finished, not just, but yesterday, finished my reading prompt for this month. I'm loving these prompts, it's going well. So this month I read The Bass Rock by Evie Wyld. Because the prompt was to choose a book that had been, I'm not sure winner or selected for. I'm not very good at remembering the prompts once I've read the book. I'm really sorry. So the Stella Prize, which is the Australian version, I suppose, of the Women's Prize. So I was very excited about this. I'm becoming a real fan of Australian literature. And I thoroughly enjoyed reading this novel. I do have one or two reservations about it, but that said, I enjoyed every minute of it. And actually, I wish I'd sat down and read it in one sitting, because I did read it sort of sporadically throughout the week. And I think it's the kind of book that you just need to sit and experience in one go. That's my view. Partly because it has three very different time periods. And because I kept dipping in and out of it, sometimes I'd have to sort of really reread a few pages just to kind of get myself back in. I don't think that's a fault of the novel, perhaps. I think it's me. Anyway, the setting I loved. So it's set in Scotland, east coast of Scotland, and the Bass Rock is this small, white, uninhabited island that can be seen from the coast, the local town, where the protagonists in the story live. And there's also this amazing old house, which is central to the story as well. I love an old house. I love moving around different rooms, and particularly experiencing some of the objects which one of the characters was desperate to break at certain points in the story. Anyway, the novel centres, I suppose, around three women, but each of those women has a kind of cast of characters around them. So there's Sarah, who's a young girl in the 1700s, very young girl, who has been is being pursued because they believe that the men in the community, well, and the women as well, believe that she's a witch. There is Ruth, who is a newlywed, who's just moved to that part of Scotland because of her marriage. And she's married to Peter. The marriage is quite, what's the word? It's not a happy marriage particularly. There are lots of flaws with it. And one of the things I loved about Ruth's character is, I mean, she herself is really flawed. She turns to alcohol to sort of kind of control the situation or make things bearable. And she has gained with her marriage two stepsons. Their mother died of weak lungs, and she's trying to find a way to be a decent parent to those boys. And I really found some real sincerity in that attempt, and in the way that the relationship between her and the boys develops as the novel progresses. So that was one of the things I really enjoyed about the novel. Then there is Vivienne, who is so Ruth's time period is just post-war. Her husband served in the war, and clearly it appears to have damaged him in some way. So the impact of the war isn't really referenced very closely through the novel, but you're very aware of that impact on the characters as you read of that generation. And then, of course, the knock-on effect on the next one. So Vivienne, who is the third character, the third time sequence, if you like, she's much more contemporary, and she actually is the daughter of one of Ruth's stepsons. So that's kind of, there is a connection between those two generations. You're never quite sure, or at least I wasn't, I might have missed something, of the connection between Ruth and the young woman who's being pursued as a witch. And if I'm absolutely honest, I really feel, for me, the stories of Vivienne and Ruth was so compelling and so interesting, and there were lots of sort of nice parallels between them. They both had sisters who they kind of admired and felt inadequate against, and yet that tips and turns. They're both grieving. I mean, Ruth is grieving for her brother who was killed in the war, and Vivienne is grieving for her father. So, you know, that there are these. Not only does their personal history touch each other, but they're also experiencing similar emotions. So I really enjoyed that, and I didn't personally need Sarah's story, and actually felt I was being jerked out of those two narratives whenever it came along. I think Evie Wyld may have done it to show how universal the brutality of women is and has been. You know, showing that it's something that's been inherited from generation to generation to generation. And having said that, though, the novel is, because there is a lot of male brutality in this novel, it definitely comes with a health warning. Brutality against women, but also brutality against children as well, and male children. A lot of the peers of the community are the pillars of the community, in inverted commas, are really suspect. There's the most amazing Reverend Vicar who enjoys swimming in the cold sea, and you know he's just not, is he villainous? He probably is villainous, but just a really cold, frightening figure. And actually, you know, the sort of the local community get together and have this picnic, which involves the women being disguised and the men trying to find them in a game of hide and seek, which is, you know, well, I don't want to give any spoilers. That's why I'm hesitating, but it's really uncomfortable. So there are lots of tensions like that in the novel. One of the things that I enjoyed as well, which made me feel more hopeful by the end of it, was the relationship that Vivienne develops with a woman called Maggie. Maggie notices a man crouching by Vivienne's car after she comes out of a supermarket. They've never met before. And I won't tell you what happens because it might spoil it, but that's how they meet. And they form this really quite unlikely friendship. And I really enjoyed that, you know, that idea that women can find friends in the most extraordinary of places, but also the way Maggie becomes a figure of strength, I think, for Vivienne. So yeah, a really, really interesting February read. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it, even though it you know, it dealt with some very difficult subject matter and some very difficult themes. I thought it was a brave novel in many ways. And as I say, a few reservations, but it doesn't stop me from really, really recommending it. And I'd be very interested to hear, you know, those of you who have read it, what you thought of it. If any of you haven't and do go away and read it, I'd really love to know what you think. If you like Gothic fiction, it's got that real sort of Gothic tension. At times it reminded me a little bit of how I felt when I read Rebecca, Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. So yeah, it's dark, it's haunting. Oh, and there is a ghost in it, and a very plausible ghost. And I have an issue with ghost stories, so there you go. There we are. I commend to you The Bass Rock by Evie Wyld. Take care, everybody. I hope you're having wonderful February reading. Bye.